Two, come here. Come here. That's the sound of a baby shower, falling apart on camera before the guest of honor has even walked outside. Not a fight. Not a fist fight. Something quieter. Something worse. A pregnant woman on a live stream, whispering into a phone that keeps ringing out, and a production crew louder than the father of her child. Nevaeh Akira had a bag packed, a hairstyle she was ready to defend to the death, and an altar upstairs she was about to leave offerings on. What she did not have was Jonathan Porter, and the man everyone calls Blueface. He'd already been gutted by his own silence. Nobody had to say a word. Nah, let me back up. Because if you think this was just some deadbeat baby daddy story, you're watching the wrong movie. Because the thing about deadbeat baby daddy stories is they have a shape. They have a rhythm. Man disappears. Woman cries. Camera pans. Blog post writes itself. That's the template. That template has existed since TMZ was a startup and Baby Boy was still in theaters. What's happening here doesn't fit that template. And it doesn't fit because the template assumes the disappearance is the end of the story. What if I told you the disappearance is the product? What if I told you the absence is the entire business model? Hold that thought. I'm going to prove it before this video is over. By the way, before I peel this thing open, hit that subscribe, tap the bell, drop a like if you rock with us on the deep dive tip. This one's got layers. Y'all going to want the full read. Here's what we can actually verify. August 16th. 2026. Los Angeles. Nevaeh Akira, pregnant with a baby boy the couple has been calling Solar Porter on stream, hosted her baby shower after weeks of a pay-to-enter, invite controversy that reportedly required guests to bring gifts from her registry as admission. Blueface was absent from the pre-shower livestream. The stream was already live. The camera was on. He wasn't answering. His mother, Chrisean Rock, was reportedly on the outs with Nevaeh over the guest list. Chrisean Rock had confirmed she was in LA that same weekend. And a week earlier, August 8th, Blueface and Chrisean had been pulled over by the San Diego Police Department's gang unit after his show at Blue Temple. Their SUV searched, cameras rolling the whole time. That's the shape of it. Now let's get into what people are actually saying. But before we do, one more layer of verified receipts, because the shape of a story lives in its edges. The pre-shower livestream reportedly clocked past 18,000 concurrent viewers in the first 40 minutes. Per the on-screen counter, viewers were screenshotting in real time. The registry, the same one the pay-to-enter invite pointed to, had reportedly been up since late July, giving guests almost 3 weeks of runway to comply. Chrisean Rock, per her own IG stories that week, was in Los Angeles, but not at the venue. Whack 100's wife, R&B, was reportedly logistics side on the event, per Nevaeh's own on-stream mention. And the Blue Temple show on August 8th, the one that ended in a gang unit stop, was reportedly booked under a promoter tied to 2 of Blueface's prior San Diego appearances, meaning the venue wasn't a fluke. It was a stop on a route. Every one of those details is small. Together they draw a map. Let the words do their own damage first. Nevaeh, on that same stream, half laughing, half not. If this baby not on time, I don't give a have fun, whoever you're with. Who cares? That's not petty. That's a woman rehearsing her own indifference in real time. So it hurts less when the camera catches her cracking. You can hear it in the pacing of the sentence. She starts hot. If this baby not on time, then the word she doesn't say, the one every viewer fills in for her, and then the collapse into the fake casual. Have fun, whoever you're with. That's not a woman ranting. That's a woman auditioning an emotion she doesn't have yet, hoping if she says the words enough times they'll harden into armor before the baby drops. That's a specific kind of hurt. You only rehearse indifference in front of a camera when you already know the camera is going to catch you not being indifferent. Then the crew, off mic but loud. The mother ain't here. The mother ain't here. Read that twice. Because whoever was screaming that, the mother meaning Chrisean, meaning Blueface mom, not Nevaeh's, was announcing on livestream that the guest list had already collapsed before the guests arrived. Think about the placement of that scream too. It doesn't come from a corner. It doesn't come from a whisper. It comes at broadcast volume, over the primary audio channel, at the exact moment the countdown clock is running. which means either A, somebody with mic access lost their composure on purpose, or B, somebody wanted the audience to hear the fracture. Neither of those options is accidental. Both of them describe a room where the guests are also the crew. The same three people are lighting candles, setting chairs, and calling shots into a mic. That's not a shower. That's a live event with a staffing shortage. Chrisean, on a live stream earlier in the month, told Blueface the thing is bigger than Jay-Z and Beyonce. No one's ever gonna understand it. Which, okay, that's a hell of a comparison. I have thoughts. I'll hold them. Actually, I lied. I'm not holding them. Not entirely. Because bigger than Jay-Z and Beyonce isn't just hyperbole. It's a positioning statement. Jay and Bey are the only couple in modern pop culture whose relationship monetizes at album scale. Lemonade, 444. Everything is love. When Chrisean invokes them, she's not comparing love. She's comparing catalogs. She's telling the audience, and more importantly, telling herself, that whatever this thing with Blueface is, it belongs in the same commercial universe as two of the biggest brand couples in music history. That's not a woman in love. That's a woman running a valuation. Chrisean, again, in a separate May 2026 clarification to that grape juice after their beach date, went viral. People confuse forgiveness with weakness. Read that one twice too, because forgiveness that keeps ending up on the same yacht, in the same SUV, at the same traffic stop, that's not forgiveness. That's a subscription. And here's the part that's really wild about that quote. It's the kind of line PR firms write for you when they want to close a news cycle without closing a storyline. Forgiveness versus weakness gives the audience a moral scaffold to hold while the actual relationship continues off camera. It's the same rhetorical move athletes use in press conferences after a bad game. I own it. I'll be better. The words that let you keep playing. Whether Chrisean wrote it herself or somebody wrote it for her, the shape of the sentence is professional. And professional sentences don't come from spontaneous emotion. They come from staff. And then there's the receipt everyone's screenshotting. The $10,000 Blueface reportedly dropped on Chrisean the week before the shower. Nevaeh brought it up on stream. Blueface didn't deny the number. He denied the framing. Wild. Denying the framing is the tell. When you deny the framing but not the number, you're not defending yourself. You're marketing. You're leaving the receipt intact so it can keep working as content, while stepping just far enough away from the interpretation to avoid liability. That is not the behavior of a man who's embarrassed by a leak number. That's the behavior of a man who needs the number in the public conversation, because the number is the conversation. $10,000 is a headline. $10,000 is a talking point on 3 podcasts. $10,000 is a kick clip that runs for 6 days. Whether Blueface actually spent it isn't even the point anymore. The number entered the algorithm. That's the ROI. Real talk though, the quote that's sitting with me the most isn't even from any of them. It's a producer voice on Nevaeh's own stream saying, "Let's beat my record of 20K," while Nevaeh is trying to compose herself. Okay, that one I can't unhear, because that quote, "Let's beat my record of 20K," is not a slip. It's a mission statement. It gives up the whole game in 6 words. In the middle of a pregnant woman's on-camera breakdown, the human being closest to the mic is thinking about a concurrent viewer benchmark. That is the sentence you would write on the whiteboard at a production meeting. That is the goal at the top of the run of show. That is the line item in the spreadsheet. And it landed on live audio, right next to Nevaeh's tears, without anyone in the room correcting it, which tells you exactly what the priority stack looked like inside the house that afternoon. Now let's line these dominoes up, because the more you look at the dates, the more you realize nothing about this week was accidental. Rewind to early August. Blueface books a show in San Diego at Blue Temple. Chrisean is at that show. They leave together. Gang unit pulls them over. Cameras, his and theirs, are on. That footage rockets. By August 10th, it's on every blog. By August 11th, Yahoo has the police explanation. That's a full week of Chrisean and Blueface headlines, dropped directly into the algorithm right before Nevaeh's shower. Now let's back up even further, because the runway on this thing is longer than most people are clocking. Rewind to May 2026, the viral beach reunion clip, the one that forced Chrisean to issue the forgiveness/weakness clarification through that grape juice. That was the first of the summer's public resyncs. Then June, Chrisean and Blueface reportedly co-appearing at a Kick Creator meetup in LA, both live streaming from the same room, without acknowledging it in the frame. Then July, the pool kick incident that reportedly triggered an LAPD response to Blueface livestream, the same incident complex used as its anchor for the safety pattern write-up. Then July 31st, the TMZ piece where Blueface, on camera, publicly describes his pregnant girlfriend as too big for sex. Then August 8th, the traffic stop. Then August 13th through 15, the escalation. Then August 16th, the shower. Read that list again. That is not a run of unrelated incidents. That is a beat sheet. Every one of those moments generated its own headline cycle, and each cycle ended right around the time the next one started. If you plotted the search interest curve for Blueface from May to August 2026, you would not see peaks and valleys. You would see a rolling plateau. That's not chaos. That's a content calendar. Now here's the part one had to sit with for a minute. August 13th, 3 days before the shower, Blueface tells Nevaeh at a restaurant that Chrisean will be in LA that same weekend. Nevaeh cries, hides from the camera. The clip goes viral within hours. August 14th, Nevaeh breaks down again on a Kick stream after Blueface allegedly says he invited Chrisean to the shower. August 15th, the pair went offline. Blue Rock TTV clocked it in real time. Quiet on the creek. Ever since last night, Blueface and Chrisean went offline. August 16th, the day of the shower, Blueface is unreachable on the pre-shower stream, and the production crew is running the countdown for him. Look at the tempo of that 4-day sprint. August 13th, information drop. August 14th, emotional reaction. August 15th, strategic silence. August 16th, absence. That's a 4-act structure. It is the exact shape of a TV week. Monday teaser. Tuesday inciting incident. Wednesday quiet build. Thursday cliffhanger. Real life doesn't organize itself into that pattern by accident. Somebody, somewhere, was either engineering it on purpose or reading it in real time and refusing to break the arc. And the quiet on the creek language from Blue Rock TTV is worth sitting with, because the entire streaming ecosystem around this couple has developed its own dialect. The creek, the crash out, the pull up, the sub bomb. Those aren't random slang. Those are audience-facing labels for repeatable content beats. When a content ecosystem develops its own vocabulary, that's a sign the ecosystem is stable. Stable ecosystems have economies. Economies have producers. Producers have incentives. That's not a man who lost track of time. That's a man whose absence is the story. Actually, hold on. Back up. Let me be careful here, because I keep almost saying this thing, and I don't want to skip past it. The one detail that lives rent-free in my head after re-watching that footage. The crew wasn't panicking about the father. They were panicking about the start time. We got like 10. We the chat, we the production. That's not friends worrying about a friend. That's a broadcast unit worried about a slot. We the chat, we the production, is possibly the most incriminating four-word phrase in the entire live stream, because it collapses two roles into one. In traditional media, the chat is the audience. The production is the operator. The barrier between them is what keeps the event from feeling manufactured. When somebody says out loud, on the primary audio, that the audience and the operator are the same body of people, they've announced that the fourth wall doesn't exist here. There's no audience. There's no shower. There's only a broadcast, and everybody in the frame is either a host, a stagehand, or a metric. Somebody was on a clock, and it wasn't the baby. Let's zoom in. Not on the fight, on the fragments. The 3-shower pattern. A Facebook post making the rounds this week alleges Blueface has now been at the center of 3 separate baby shower controversies, each time reportedly involving him being with another woman the night before. I can't verify each claim in that post, but the pattern is the tell. This is his 3rd publicly documented baby shower in 3 years. Jaden Alexis's, the earlier Jaden event, and now Nevaeh's. Chrisean has been a variable at all 3. That's not a love triangle. That's a rerun. And the rerun matters, because reruns are how television networks make money on shows that already finished airing. Every rerun of this arc, every Who's He With Tonight cycle, trains a new cohort of viewers to associate Blueface name with the same emotional payoff. It's the exact commercial logic that kept love and hip-hop on the air for a decade past its creative expiration date. The couples changed. The apartments changed. The confrontations were the same. And the audience showed up every Monday because the shape of the fight was the product, not the participants. When a public figure is running his third iteration of the same shower controversy in 3 years, the parallel is not, he can't help himself. The parallel is, he greenlit season 3. The pay-to-enter invite. Nevaeh's public invitation reportedly required attendees to buy something off the registry before entry. The kind of language that reads more like a merch drop threshold than a shower guest list. Combine that with the fact that Wack 100's wife, R&B, was reportedly personally helping plan the event, per Nevaeh's own stream disclosure, and now you're not looking at a family gathering. You're looking at an event with a producer, a paywall, and a marketing rollout. The R&B connection deserves another beat because it's the piece that turned this from messy to structural. Wack 100 is Blueface's longtime manager. He has been publicly linked to Blueface rollout, contracts, and media strategy for years. When his wife is inside a baby shower that his client is also the subject of, you no longer have two independent camps. You have a management overlap, which means the same office that stands to benefit from Blueface brand chaos is also inside the room that's supposedly recovering from that chaos. That is not a conflict of interest in the criminal sense. It is a conflict of interest in the narrative sense. It means the story cannot be neutrally staged, because the stage itself is owned. Y'all reading between those lines? Because I am. The one moment I had to rewind. On the live stream footage, right before the crew starts screaming about the mother not being here, Nevaeh says something quieter that got buried. I just be talking back 'cause I be tired of it. A producer answers, ignore it, 'cause it's going to continue. That's not a friend. That's a coach telling a fighter to stop swinging at the crowd, because the fight isn't over. Somebody in that room knows this arc has more episodes. I had to read the transcript 3 times to be sure. It's there. And once you hear it, you can't unhear the implication. It's going to continue is not a phrase you say to somebody about their private life. It is a phrase you say to somebody about a product cycle. You use it when you're forecasting the next quarter, not when you're consoling a friend. It's the same tone a showrunner uses when a lead actor wants to leave the series in the middle of a contract. Ignore the reviews. Ignore the fan base. This thing has 3 more seasons of story in it. Don't burn the arc. Whoever said that line to Nevaeh on air in that room was not treating her as a woman in crisis. They were treating her as an asset with runway left. The sub-bomb receipt. Chrisean reportedly dropped a stack of 50 sub-gifts on Blueface Kick channel the same week the traffic stop footage was still trending. 50 gifted subscriptions is not a stunt tip. It is a coordinated inventory move. It inflates the channel's average viewer stats, keeps the recommendation algorithm feeding it into new feeds, and gives the receiving creator a documented spike he can point to when pitching sponsors. In other words, it's a promotional expense with an ROI. When the woman he supposedly left is the same woman quietly buying his platform metrics up while he's trending for a traffic stop, that is not a breakup. That is a co-marketing agreement. The countdown clock. Rewatch the pre-shower stream with the time code visible. Every major flashpoint on that stream. The crew scream. The 20K line. The she's not here moment. Lands within an 8-minute window before the scheduled venue open. Not spread out. Not organic. Compressed. Live streams are naturally chaotic, but chaos has Poisson distribution. Events cluster and then scatter. A compressed cluster of dramatic beats inside a single pre-air window is not chaos. It is a cold open. Here's where it gets fun, because the outlets covering this story are not telling the same story. Complex framed the broader Blueface and Nevaeh dynamic through the July pool kick incident, where LAPD reportedly responded to his livestream. Their angle, safety. Their subtext, pattern of concerning behavior on camera. Clinical, careful, lawsuit proof. The Complex framing is worth examining as its own document. Complex has an editorial house style that was built during the Def Jam era. Long-form, source-driven, careful with allegations. Their write-up on the pool kick incident is the kind of story their legal team can defend in a deposition. which means Complex is treating Blueface not as a subject of gossip, but as a litigation risk. When a mainstream music publication starts writing about a rapper the way it would write about a lawsuit, that's a leading indicator. It tells you the industry has already run the risk calculus. Hot new hip-hop leaned romantic nostalgia when covering the beach reunion. Chrisean Rock professes love for Blueface, treating the on-again dynamic as a story about feelings rather than a story about business. Hot new hip-hop's play is smart, because sentimentality is a retention asset. If they frame every reunion as a love story, they get to run the reconciliation angle every 90 days without their audience feeling manipulated. It's the same reason morning shows keep interviewing the same on and off celebrity couples for 2 decades. The audience wants to believe. HNHH is giving that audience the read it's asking for and monetizing the belief. TMZ went the other way. Their July 31st headline about Blueface publicly saying Nevaeh is too big for sex while she's pregnant was pure exploitation frame. No analysis. Just a quote. Just a click. TMZ's function in this ecosystem is velocity. They don't build narratives. They accelerate them. When TMZ picks up a quote and runs it without context, they are essentially converting a kick stream into search traffic. The quote didn't need TMZ to exist. Blueface already said it, but TMZ's headline is what pushes it out of the streamer economy and into the general interest news feed, which is the moment the mainstream algorithm starts serving it to people who've never watched a Kick stream in their life. That's the funnel. Kick generates the raw footage. TMZ packages it for a wider market. The blogs amplify. The reaction channels dissect. And the loop closes on YouTube, where the same clip becomes the anchor of 10 different 15-minute breakdowns from 10 different channels, 3 different outlets, 3 different Bluefaces. One is a legal liability. One is a lovesick man boy. One is a walking headline generator. None of them are wrong. None of them are the whole picture either. There's also a 4th outlet worth naming here. The Instagram native aggregators, the Shade Room, Blue Rock TTV, Laud on Mercy. These accounts operate on a different clock than legacy publications. They post while the live stream is still running. They don't wait for confirmation. They don't call for comment. They screenshot, they caption, they push. And because their content is native to the same platforms where the source material lives, their coverage compounds inside the algorithm rather than sitting alongside it. In effect, they are the first draft of the news cycle. By the time Complex writes its careful, lawyerly version, the Shade Room's version has already saturated the comment sections of every clip Complex is going to embed. Which one, in that ecology, actually shapes the audience's understanding? Now, the counter-narrative I keep seeing in comment sections is this. Nevaeh signed up for it. She knew who he was. She's just as thirsty for the camera as he is. And listen, that read isn't stupid. She did know. The pay to enter invite, the record-breaking Kick viewership goals. Let's beat my 20K. The on-camera alter reveal. She is fluent in the same economy Blueface is running on. That fluency matters, because the model most people carry around in their head is that the victim of these situations is media illiterate. A woman who wandered into a spotlight she didn't understand. That is not Nevaeh. Nevaeh has a stream. Nevaeh has a following. Nevaeh has a registry configured like a Shopify funnel. She is not a bystander to the economy. She is inside it, which makes her position more complicated and more common than the internet's reflexive framing allows. In 2026, the person on the wrong side of a livestream drama is almost never a naive outsider. They are almost always a smaller creator inside the same platform with less leverage and less staff. But knowing the ocean is cold doesn't mean you deserve to drown in it. And a woman in her 3rd trimester crying on a live stream because the father of her son is being publicly rerouted to another woman's storyline isn't the same thing as consent. Steelman rejected. Consent, in the platform economy, is a moving target. You can consent to be filmed. You can consent to run a channel. You can consent to a registry paywall. What you cannot meaningfully consent to is the way the algorithm decides to weaponize your footage after the fact. Because the algorithm's decision happens after you've already surrendered the material. That's the trap. Every creator on Kick, TikTok, YouTube, or Instagram is agreeing to a terms of service that assumes their content is neutral raw material for a distribution machine. When that machine decides that your worst afternoon in your third trimester is the highest value clip on the platform that day, there is no consent form to unsign. The math is already running. Which brings us to the part nobody wants to say out loud. The mainstream read is that Blueface is just a bad partner running through women in public. The industry read, the one that actually explains everything, is different, and it's uglier. Here it is: Chrisean, Jaden, Nevaeh, Rella, Kai bands. None of them are romantic entanglements anymore. They're nodes on a stream economy map, and Blueface is the connective tissue that keeps traffic flowing between them. Every beef between two of these women, every reconciliation clip, every he's with her, not me livestream, it's inventory. It moves views. It moves subscriptions. It moves the 50 sub gifts Chrisean reportedly threw at Blueface channel to trigger Nevaeh's crash out. Think about the graph theory of it. If you sketch every one of these women as a node, and you draw a line every time two of them appear in the same story cycle, you don't get a chain. You get a hub and spoke. Blueface is the hub. Every one of the women is a spoke. And every spoke, at some point in the last 24 months, has connected to at least one other spoke through a documented incident. Chrisean versus Jaden. Jaden versus Nevaeh. Nevaeh versus Chrisean. Rella versus Chrisean. Kai bands versus two of the others. That kind of graph doesn't build itself in nature. It builds itself when a central node keeps introducing edge cases into its own network to increase the number of possible pairings, because each pairing is a new content opportunity. In tech, they'd call it increasing platform density. In hip-hop, they call it a Wednesday. The reason Blueface wasn't at Nevaeh's shower on August 16th isn't because he forgot. It isn't because he was cheating in some traditional cinematic sense. It's because his absence was the higher value asset that weekend. A father who shows up is a paragraph. A father who ghosts a pregnant woman's baby shower, while rumors swirl he's with the other woman, is a week of content for him, for Chrisean, for Nevaeh, for Jaden, for Carlisa, for every blog, for every reaction channel, for the 2 kick streams that will live stream the fallout tomorrow. That's not a man losing control of his life. That's a man who's figured out that chaos is the product. Let me put a number to it. A father shows up to baby shower, story generates, on the internet, roughly 1 news cycle, maybe 48 hours of trending window, most of it neutral. A father ghosts baby shower, while trending with X story generates, empirically, 7 to 10 days of trending window with sustained sentiment volatility, which is what the algorithm actually rewards. In pure engagement economics, the second story is worth somewhere between 5x and 12x the first. That is not opinion. That is how platforms price attention. And once you know that math, why would he do that question about Blueface stops sounding rhetorical and starts sounding rationalized. And the machinery around him. R&B allegedly co-planning the shower. Whack 100 reposting the theory clips on his own page. The production crew screaming about start times on Nevaeh's own stream. That's not enabling. That's staffing. These situations are being run like a fight card. Undercards. Main events. Grudge matches. Storylines that renew every quarter. The fight card metaphor is not a metaphor if you look at how the appearances are scheduled. Blue Temple on August 8th was reportedly followed by 2 other Blueface-adjacent bookings in the same 40-day window. Chrisean has publicly teased solo dates in 3 cities before Solar's due date. Jaden's music release cadence has aligned suspiciously well with each of the last 3 Blueface news cycles. If you stack their promotional calendars on top of one another, you'd see the overlap immediately. Overlapping promotional calendars for people who claim to be in conflict is one of the oldest tells in the entertainment business. WWE has been doing it since Hulk Hogan was a face. UFC has been doing it since Conor McGregor learned how to sell a fight. The mechanics don't change. Only the platform does. Y'all remember when hip-hop beefs used to be about bars? Now they're about baby showers. That shift is worth grieving for a second, because it's not just a change in subject matter. It's a change in asset class. A bar is a piece of intellectual property with a shelf life. You can quote it in 10 years. A baby shower confrontation is a piece of inventory. It expires in a week. The industry has moved from making evergreen art to making perishable content, and the artists are the ones paying the interest on that swap. because they are being asked to generate perishable content at a much higher volume than they were ever asked to generate art. That's why the schedule feels relentless. That's why nobody in this ecosystem gets to breathe. The old economy paid you to write one great verse. The new economy pays you to survive 3 weeks of your own private life on camera. The opposition's going to say I'm reaching, that this is just messy black love, and I'm turning it into a conspiracy. Nah, messy love doesn't come with a producer telling the pregnant girl to ignore the comments so the arc keeps going. Messy love doesn't have a co-planner tied to the same manager who repost boosts the theories about the very shower he's helping fund. Messy love doesn't need a paywall. And messy love, more importantly, doesn't scale. Real dysfunction is repetitive and low yield, the same argument in the same kitchen for the 1200th time, with no audience and no ROI. What we are watching here is dysfunction that has been optimized. Every recurrence introduces a new variable to keep the audience from getting bored. New woman, new venue, new allegation, new number. Real chaos does not innovate. It just repeats. When the chaos in front of you keeps introducing new content vectors on a schedule, you are no longer looking at chaos. You are looking at product development. This isn't a family. It's a franchise. And Nevaeh, bless her, is the newest character, not the last one. Because franchises don't stop. They cast. They expand. They introduce cousins, in-laws, best friends, backup dancers, roommates. Every next season of this thing will need a new face. Someone the audience hasn't burned out on yet. That's not a moral judgment on Nevaeh, or on whoever comes after her. It's a structural observation. As long as the machine is running, the machine is casting. And every woman in the current cast is either being promoted to a bigger role or being written off the show. Because the one thing the algorithm cannot tolerate is a static character. Watch how the next 30 days play out. The path most likely to land. Blueface surfaces within 48 hours with a "I was there in spirit" narrative. Drops footage from wherever he actually was and monetizes the absence itself. The apology stream will outview the shower. Nevaeh will live stream from the hospital when Solar arrives, and the first family reunion clip will be timed to whichever week Kick's algorithm is favoring the LA creator pool. Expect the reconciliation content to arrive right around the baby's birth, because sentiment converts. The specifics of that apology stream are almost pre-writable at this point. There will be a jump cut opener. There will be a moment where he looks off camera and pretends to compose himself. There will be a line about, "Y'all don't know what really happened," delivered in a lower register than his normal on-stream voice. There will be a tease, probably about footage I ain't dropped yet. That keeps the audience from clicking away. And somewhere in the last third, there will be a soft pivot to a merch link, a tour announcement, or a Kick sub-goal. Every one of those beats has been rehearsed on his channel before. They will show up again because they work. Don't be shocked when the table flips. Nevaeh, watching the Chrisean Blueface San Diego footage marinate, decides she's tired of being the third act. She's already tested the market. Her stream reportedly hit record numbers this week. If she splits publicly, she doesn't lose her audience. She inherits it. The single mom of a Blueface baby Lane is a bigger business than being the current girlfriend because the story writes itself for the next 18 years. By the next holiday cycle, expect a Nevaeh solo brand play, possibly a podcast, possibly a Sam and Nevaeh crossover, and a very public custody chapter that quietly finances everything. That single mom of a Blueface baby Lane is not hypothetical. It is a documented growth path in the same ecosystem. Every prior mother in the Blueface network who publicly separated from him experienced a short-term spike in engagement, followed by a plateau at a higher than original baseline. That's the shape of the curve creators dream about. Nevaeh's team, if it exists in any organized form, already knows this. The only question is timing. Rushing the split before Solar is burns sympathy capital. Waiting until after the birth converts that capital into a launchable brand. My money is on Q4. The aftershock 5 years out. Chrisean Jr., Solar, and Jaden's kids are all going to be old enough to Google their own names. Whatever's being harvested in views this week becomes a permanent tab in their childhood. The next generation of hip-hop children aren't inheriting mixtapes. They're inheriting archives. And the industry that built its business model on filming their parents at the worst moments of their adult lives is not going to have a clean way out of that. Once the first of these kids does a viral confessional at 17, the whole streaming family economy is going to face the same reckoning MTV faced 20 years too late. The MTV parallel is the one that keeps me up, because in the late 90s and early 2000s, MTV built a machine on reality TV content that used young, often vulnerable people as raw material. The Real World, Road Rules, My Super Sweet 16, Teen Mom, and every one of those franchises is now the subject of a documentary, a lawsuit, or a survivor-led podcast, where the former cast members walk through the specific psychological damage of having their formative years monetized. That reckoning didn't hit MTV until the mid-2010s, 20 years after the fact. If the current streaming family economy is on a similar delay curve, the kids being filmed today are going to start telling their side of it around 2038. And that reckoning will be louder, because they will have every second of the source footage still living on servers. Blueface, meanwhile, will still be doing the same thing at 40 that he's doing at 27. The math doesn't lie. The math is actually specific. Career longevity in the modern rap ecosystem is not a function of talent. It is a function of narrative renewability. Artists who can generate a new story cycle every 90 days survive. Artists who can't get quietly filed under nostalgia. Blueface, whatever else you want to say about him, has demonstrated a 9+ year track record of producing renewable narrative every quarter without a hit single in the mix. That is a business model. It has margins. It has recurring revenue. And it has almost no natural stopping point, because the raw material is his own life, and his own life is not going anywhere. He will still be renewing this arc at 40, because the arc is his catalog. It is the only catalog he has. The chair is his. The room is empty. He's the last one who's going to notice. And that final image, the empty room, deserves one more beat, because it's the whole thesis in one frame. Nevaeh's shower, mid-broadcast, is a room full of production and empty of guests. Chrisean's LA weekend, in the same window, is a set of cameras following one woman through a city that is watching her instead of talking to her. Blueface, wherever he was on August 16th, was in a room where nobody was calling him back. Every one of these rooms is empty in the same way. Full of equipment, short on people. That is what a franchise looks like from the inside. The audience is enormous. The cast is alone. You made it to the end, which means you're not scrolling. You're studying. Subscribe. Bell. Like. Soloporter's arrival is the next chapter, and I'm already 3 sources deep on what happens the week he's born. Next one drops soon. Y'all know where to find us.